Hello, everybody. Welcome to FSU Coach Live. My name is Tim Baghurst, and today's guest is Nathan Griffith. He is the youth strength and conditioning coach at Oxford United FC in England. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me. If you wouldn't mind, just share a little bit of your background and how you got into your role.
Hi, Tim. Thank you again for inviting me into this show. It's a great pleasure. So yes, I'm the head of Academy Strength Conditioning Coach at Oxford United Football Club. It's been a long journey, if I'm being honest. I think, as everyone knows, that the market is so saturated within strength conditioning. And if you really want it and you really want to get into the industry, then you will, and you'll make that effort, as we spoke just previously. So my journey began in 2016 in my undergraduate degree in England. I did 3 years at university. In my first year, I didn't really know what strength conditioning was, but I was intrigued. I loved football, which in America we classify as that as soccer. And I just, loved football my entire life. And that's what just inspired me. And I knew what sports science was about, but I just wanted to have that practical experience and gain that theoretical knowledge. So my first internship was at Derby County Football Club Academy, and the training ground is magnificent. It's everything that you would dream of being there, working with professional athletes, footballers, and working with the staff. It just inspired me. Had that burning desire, and I knew just the first couple of days, because when I started was pre-season. So in England around June, July, it was hot, summertime. I knew this is the industry that I wanted to be in. And I did that internship for a year. Was incredible experience. I taught why fundamental movements is important to adolescents and pre-adolescents, and just getting how to enhance performance, but most importantly as well is to reduce the risk of injury. So then I moved on. End of internship, I reached out to another professional club, and at the time they were only recruiting interns that were from their local university. But because I sought them out, and I knew this was the industry that I wanted to go in, and I was so determined and driven, I pursued them, and they gave me an interview. Thankfully, I was accepted onto the internship program, which was a year. Even though it was similar internships, I learned so much at Birmingham City Football Club. Again, different teams have different philosophies and how they work. What was taught on internship was the theory side of it. So the GPS, what do they normally do on a weekly basis? What are the match demands on a Saturday? And then being able to interpretate that data to the coaches who haven't got any understanding at all. So that was a real insight, and it was really good and enhanced my learning. And then I went on to do my master's. So I went down to London again. So I pursued to increase my knowledge, make myself more applicable to current recruiters or potential recruiters that I would apply to within jobs. And I did my master's in strength conditioning at Middlesex University, a great university, very applied course, which was good because it allowed me to what I was taught within my master's to translate that within my internship. And even while I was doing my master's, which was full time, again, because the market was so saturated, and for every job within the UK, at least for one job, 150 people applying for it. Wow. And then you get shortlisted down to 5 or 100. So it's really, really challenging to try and get that role and to break into that industry. So it's a lot about networking as well, as much as you can. So I did another internship. So overall, that was 3 internships. My third one was at Charlton Athletic Football Club. Great club, has a great history, was in the Premier League, was only there for 3-4 months. And that was the reason because I was able to get a full-time opportunity at Barnet Football Club, another football club which was local to Charlton in London. And that was a great experience. I thought, okay, so all that hard work, I'm just about to complete my master's. I've graduated from my undergraduate degree. I've had 3 internships. I've done it. Like everyone used to tell me that once you've broke into the industry and you have a full-time opportunity, then that's it. But it didn't go that way. So I was only there for 6-7 months, learned a lot. And the reason why was because at the time I joined the club was in a relegation battle. So the system of what happens in UK soccer, it goes from Premier League, which are your clubs like Tottenham, Man City, Chelsea. It then goes to your Championship clubs, and then League One, and then League Two. So if you're starting out in a profession within UK, more likely you're going to go and start from the bottom and then work your way to the top, which is exactly what I did. So my full-time opportunity was a football club in League Two, and they were in the relegation battle. And unfortunately, they got relegated, which meant the next season after, they would not been a professional football club. They would have been a semi-professional football club. So their players would have only been playing part-time, which meant the chairman decided to make most staff members and players redundant. So after breaking into the industry, being so happy, all that hard work, my dreams just start crushing down. I even remember to this day where the person who hired me for the role brought me outside and said, look, this is kind of the circumstances that we're in. Unfortunately, we're going to have to let you go. Didn't really hit reality until I started walking home. But again, I knew that this was the industry for me, and all the hard work that I've done so far, I wasn't going to let that stop me. So applied for a few more jobs, had interviews, didn't get them. I truly believe everything does happen for a reason. There was a job vacancy, and it had been up for quite a long time. And the reason why I didn't apply for it was because it was quite far away from where my parents lived. So I was living in London at the time, and completed my master's, graduated, but I couldn't live in London no more because if you've lived in London, been around in London, it's very expensive, especially if you're not working. Yeah. So the only option that I had to do was move back home to my parents. Not something that I wanted to do, but it just had to be done. But again, like I was mentioning before, on the last day of the application day, there was a part-time vacancy for Peterborough United Football Club. And now from my parents, where Peterborough is, where to my parents live, it was a 2-hour journey. But there was no other options. Again, within UK, it's that if a job opening is going to occur, then it's only because someone's left for a new pasture. So rare opportunities come not very frequently. Let's put it like that. So I thought, look, this is the industry that I want to do. Let's just apply for it. Got an interview and eventually got a part-time job at Peterborough United Football Club after 1 or 2 months being made redundant. And it was not easy at all. Again, like I said, it was a 2-hour journey, and I was probably driving more than I was coaching. So sometimes I only had to go and work for maybe an hour or an hour and a half, where there and back, obviously, is a 4-hour journey. And the pay that I was getting, I was probably spending more on travel expenses than anything else. And then alongside this as well, just to increase my money intake, I was also working as a bartender on Saturdays. So it's full on. And that didn't end probably. I stayed in that role for a year, 12 months, until thankfully the position that I'm in now, Oxford United Football Club, I've been here for 2 years. So again, even for my role that I applied for, my current role, it was a 2-stage interview process, and 150 people applied. Got narrowed down to the final 20, which was first just an initial phone call just to get to see what type of personality you are. The first stage was past that, the next stage was an interview stage, which was a presentation about what can you bring to Oxford United Football Club, what is your philosophy, what can you do to make these changes to enhance performance? Because at that time, and still now, we are a club that we develop academy players and trying to produce them within our first team, and then down the line we try and sell them on. So that's our main goal as a football club. And Oxford United Football Club, as I was telling you, in that tier system, we are in, sorry, I had to think then, we are in League One. Unfortunately, last season we got to the final, but we lost, and we just missed that opportunity to get to the Championship, to that next stage. But again, going back to the point, 150 people applied for my role, and the second stage interview was how can you interact with the staff members and the players that you're going to be working with, which was a match day experience. So I led the GPS aspect of it, and also led the match day warm up, and I was assessed on my just personality, my interactions with the players, and my professionalism. And again, yeah, I've been here for 2 years. And I'm still learning, still developing as a practitioner. I'm always open. And it was something that I saw within an article. The rugby head coach for England, he said that you have to treat yourself as a business. If you think about a business, the good businesses, they are open to change, and they are the ones that flourish. The ones that are not so good and they're not flourishing, it's because they're not open to change. So the new technology, the new software that we have, new businesses are open to that idea. And it's the same principles that you have to abide by as a practitioner, as a strength conditioning practitioner. You have to be open. You can't be just viewing one kind of view. You have to be looking left and right and looking at all planes, because just one athlete, only because you're philosophy and you think that's right for that athlete, maybe not. There's, as we're going to probably talk about later on, you work with a range of different athletes, and you have to adapt and you have to manipulate your practice. So that's really important. So again, yeah, that's my story, and that's where I am right now.
All right, well, take a breath. That was a that was a speech. You had a lot of good things in there, and yeah. I want to get to training youth here in a minute, but a couple of things I think are worth mentioning and worth reminding people. And by the way, if you are watching and you have a question for Nathan, just put it in the chat box and we'll get it to him. You didn't allow things to come to you. You went and got them. And that's something that a lot of people coming up into coaching, I want to be a strength and conditioning coach. I want to be a coach. I know these people, it'll work out. No, you had to do the work. You had to do the internships. You had to do the qualifications, and you had to go find those jobs, sometimes even when it costs you financially and time, as you talked about traveling. Definitely something that a lot of people don't think about when they're looking at the profession.
Yeah, that's sure. I mean, a lot of people say they want it, but it's about how much do you really want it, you know? So you have to really pursue it. If that's something that you want, then you go and get it. And another thing that puts people off is that, well, I'm just another person. There's loads of other people that want to be in the same situation as me. But if you have that mindset, then you're never going to be where you want to be. You have to believe in yourself and have that inner belief that you're different and you have unique ability to be different and just separate yourself from another person. So yeah, doing those internships is vitally important. You have to pursue what you want.
Now that you're in the position of strength and conditioning coach for youth, you mentioned the level that you're at Oxford. You've got it made, right? Well paid, drive the Porsche to work, only work a few hours a day. It sounds fantastic.
Nice, far from it. It's long hours. So I work with under 9s to all the way to under 23s. So we have our professional phase players who are pro players in the morning, which is probably a typical 11 o'clock start. They report for 10 o'clock. Training's done around probably, let's say, 1 o'clock. We then have gym session afterwards, which, lasts for an hour. And then we have the evening schedule. So we have the younger age groups to do. So it's probably a good 9 to 9, 12-hour day. It's relentless. It doesn't stop. And yeah, I wish that strength conditioning coaches get well paid within our profession, but hopefully this is something that changes in the future.
So let's talk a little bit about, you talk about your hours, talk a little bit about working with strength and conditioning youth, because, we'll talk about your Twitter handle later, but if I go on there and watch some videos, I see adolescents working out with weights And a lot of people would be like, Nathan, what are you doing? Everyone knows that you shouldn't be doing that. It's dangerous. It causes, it stops growth. What are you doing? Talk a little bit about some of the maybe misconceptions that occur and how you actually train youth for your sport.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a big affiant on kind of gym training and strength training and power training, especially at a younger age group, because it's good for bone development. It's good for bone strength, good for tendon strength, and it's good for just across the age groups. When they get to an older age group, they have that technical competency, of just being able to use and being able to squat efficiently, if that's a hinge or just a pull-in motion. So we try and because we are an category 3 academy at the moment, so we actually only the under 15s start gym training. So that's in terms of strength. So that misconception that strength training, stunts growth, it is false. If anything, it is beneficial for their development and especially for their physical technical ability. So it's definitely a benefit for them. And if anything, the only way it is harmful for them is if they have incorrect technique. But that's where you have strength conditioning coaches who are qualified and can teach correct movement and movement patterns.
So let me go a little further and ask about soccer. I'll use soccer just because we're in the US, or at least I am. Can you explain what kind of training you do for a 12-year-old? Is it focused on injury prevention? Is it focused on speed? Do you focus on lower body more than upper body? How do you train an adolescent for soccer?
So we have young players coming from under 9s to under 11s. And from that bracket, what we try and promote, especially for parents, is not just to specialize in one sport. We want them to participate in many sports. And the reason behind this is because yes, they may have a preference of football, but if they're also playing tennis, that's also a skill set of what they're picking up in tennis can also translate in football. So that's hand-eye coordination, that's foot-eye coordination, and all these skills cross over to football. So we try and just emphasize the importance of multi-sport, and at such an early age we encourage that because it is so beneficial for their for their progress. Can
I interrupt you there and ask a quick question?
Definitely.
I agree with you on sports specialization and its dangers, and so you and I are on the same page. But then I go, they're part of an academy. You're encouraging them to play other sports. Is there a risk of maybe overtraining? How do you moderate the fact that they're playing tennis as well as playing soccer?
True, and that's another thing. At that age, when they're in the school age, we can't actually monitor it, because if you think about it, there's so many things that's going on in their lives. School activities afterwards. They could be doing cross country. They could have done PE lessons. So it's really hard to try and monitor and have a kind of know what their load and intensity is on a weekly basis. It's just really impossible. As a kid, you're always active and you're just doing everything every day. So that's why we try and encourage being in a multi-sport kind of environment, because we don't want that burnout rate. So we only have 2-3 training sessions a week, and then a match day. So it's not every day. That makes sense. But
yeah, completely. Because in the US, we see a lot of specialist clubs where players are participating in 4 or 5 training sessions a week and then playing Saturday and Sunday. And if they're doing anything in school, there's certainly a risk of burnout, overtraining, and so on.
And
go ahead. Sorry.
So no, it's fine. This is another thing that we do, and most coaches in the UK, but this is something that Oxford United Football Club does, and how I tell my staff to try and kind of, design a session is that when we put a session on, even a game of tag, what's the aim of tag? What are we doing? It's change direction, and they're learning to evade and avoid other players, and it's the exact same thing that they're going to have to do in a training session. So they're still getting a skill benefit from that, Obviously, we do a lot more to it in terms of we start to introduce, the squat patterning. So is your chest nice and straight? Is your knees over the toes? We don't want your knees to go in. We don't want that knee valgus. So we're trying to, learn the correct technique so that when they get older, we can design more strategic gym sessions. So we're not having to go back and teach them technique aspects of it. We can enhance their development even more, and can add a bit more technical, more challenging exercises for their development.
You've interned at a few different places. You've seen a variety of different approaches to strength and conditioning. And here you are, you're 2 years into your own program. What have you learned across those that you think would be beneficial for others who are in the S&C to know or to understand about designing programs, working with kids, soccer perhaps? You tell me.
Yeah, I've kind of said just be open. And out of all my internships, what I've done is I've picked out the good things that I've seen that is really good and that has really worked throughout each football club, and I've just combined it within my own program, which has really worked. So I'll just explain kind of the kind of schedule of what we do, and in terms of how to improve their physical development on a weekly basis. So again, the under 9s to under 11s, it's very multi-sport based, but we really want to promote technique aspect to that. But when we get older, and when a person is going through maturation, they could experience adolescent awkwardness. And if they go through an adolescent awkwardness stage, their motor skills could be affected. So a simple pass could be affected, or they just be very uncoordinated. So what we're trying to do is try and reintroduce that technique aspect. So this could be just teaching them running mechanics. So do they have a high knee drive? Can they produce force? Can they, within a sprint session, can they come to a stop quickly? So we try and do all them activities for them. Another thing that we try and do is we try and pull them out of training 5-10 minutes at a time. So most of this time that we get with them at a younger age group is within the warm-ups at the start of this session. So, and then after that, they go into training and we don't really have much interaction with them. Now, to try and boost that interaction that we have with our players, and to try and improve, let's say, running mechanics, landing mechanics, especially for those that are going through maturation, or just improve performance such as speed and power, we liaise with the coaches and we speak to them, and we just say, look, can we pull the players just probably 2 at a time, and it takes 5-10 minutes out of your training session. And if we liaise with the coaches beforehand, they have no problem with it. And that's 5-10 minutes, and overall within a week, that's an extra hour or and a half that you're getting with them. And that's massive if you think of the long-term picture of what that could be within a season.
All right, you're working with a group of kids, and I've been a teacher, right?
Yeah.
I have kids myself,
Sure.
and I've coached kids, and I also know that kids don't always put forth their best effort every time. Not everybody is intrinsically motivated like you to be their best and to push.
Yep.
And so within a training session, I suspect you may have some who think they've already made it, or some who perhaps do as little as possible because they don't want to put in the effort. How do you make sure that those athletes are motivated? Do you have any do you set goals for them? Do you like challenge them when they're not performing? How do you make sure that everybody is pushing forward together and develop that culture of not just professionalism, but that drive to succeed?
Sure. And that's one thing that is vital within our profession. I think it's not what you know, it's how much they know that they care for you. So me joining into Oxford United Football Club, it's not about what I can do so quick and so sudden. It's building that buy-in. Without that buy-in with the players, if they don't believe in what you're doing, if they don't have that relationship with you, then within that coaching session, within that training session, they're not going to give you that 100%. So without that, that is so important. And
So can you give me maybe 2 or 3 specific ways that you try to show that you care and build that culture?
yeah, just even having a conversation with them prior to training, just as simply as just asking how their day been, and that can go a long way. And then eventually they started opening up, and you start to have a rapport with them, and eventually it opens up into bigger things. You're having a laugh, you're having a joke, and then they respect you for that. So that's another thing, and I think that's what most young graduates they miss, is that they're so carried away of creating the best program, the best gym program, the best outdoor session, the best athletic development session. But if you don't have that buy-in with them players, and if they don't respect you, then you can throw that gym program out the window, because it doesn't matter. I could put out a half decent training session, but I know, for example, if I know that if my players respect me and they fully buy in to what I believe in and what I do, and they know that I care about their development, I'll get so much out of them, more than the best, let's say, program in the world.
All right, so you're working with range, I think you told this to me before the interview, up to 23-year-olds.
Yeah.
You're not an old man like me yet, right? You don't have the gray hair. So you coming in as this young strength and conditioning coach, you're not too far away from them in terms of age. Maybe they push the envelope a little bit. Maybe they test you a little bit to find out what you know and how authoritarian you're going to be. Maybe they want to be your friend and hang out with you because you're pretty close to them in age. How do you maintain that kind of professionalism and ensure that respect from those who are, the older ones that you work with?
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say that it's easy, because it's not. And as you stated, that there's probably only a 2-3 year age gap, if that, and we have the same common interests. So it is hard, it is challenging, and to not cross that boundary. But as long as you know and they know that I'm the coach and you're the player, and we get that mutual respect of when I'm telling you something to do, to respect it, and that's it, to do it. Sometimes it's not always that simple forward. Yes, they may have that respect for you, but sometimes they do cross that boundary. They sometimes forget. But then again, that's then sometimes you taking them to a side and remembering, like you telling them to, this is, not professional. You're having that professional standard all the time. So yeah, it is hard. But you just have to maintain your professional standards at all times. And as long as you don't break them, then they won't cross that boundary, and neither will you.
Now, Nathan, you're a busy guy. You put in a lot of hours. How does Nathan stay balanced and have a life?
Just try and speak to my friends as much as I can, go out, it's important to have family time as well. I love just watching football, especially going out with my dad. So it's really hard to have that balance as well, because at the moment I'm also doing my doctorate at University of Birmingham. So I'm investigating de-acceleration performance. So at the moment, I don't think that there's enough research within de-acceleration. I think a lot of research goes into top end speed or acceleration, but like team sports, it's very multi-directional, and they forget the component of de-acceleration and the importance of it in terms of how important it is in terms of change direction. So I think there's a lot to do in terms of knowing kind of the mechanics of slowing down. I think people undervalue it a lot, and they don't see it as a skill, but actually it is, and it's a very hard skill to be really competent at. But going back onto the topic, it's just making sure that you still have time, you still go out, you still see your friends, you still see your family.
Think to back in your career and what you've learned so far, and then consider the people watching this, maybe those who are trying to move up in the profession, or maybe even get into the profession. Well, what advice would you have for them?
Keep striving. You will have your down days, but make sure that you have a support system around you to pick you back up. Don't stop believing in yourself. The only way you're going to fail is by giving up. So just keep pursuing. It will come. and just be patient. I think that's something even now that I need to kind of just remember. Just be patient. It will come. I know it may not seem that it may not, but it will. Just pursue it. Go to network events. I know it's hard at the moment due to COVID-19 within England at the moment. We're in lockdown, but try and just connect with people. If that's on LinkedIn or Twitter, ask them questions. You never know, a potential opportunity could come from that. Get the accreditations for the NSCA or whatever accreditations that may help you to get to that next level. And just keep doing. Just don't give up. If you really want it, you'll get where you want to be.
And you timed it well, because if somebody does have a question for you or maybe wants to follow up with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure, via Twitter, Nathan Griffith, X, or just on LinkedIn, which is the same, Nathan Griffith, but without the X.
Okay, so for those of you listening to the podcast, that's Nathan Griffith, Griffith. You should be able to find him on Twitter and LinkedIn. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for joining me and sharing a little bit about your experiences. And I hope those watching either now or in the future do catch up with you with their questions.
Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just a reminder, coming up every week, we have a new guest. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any of them. But until next time, thank you so much for watching.
Bye.